Welcome to Spider-Verse Minute, the tri-weekly podcast where we watch Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 1 minute at a time. I'm Sean Slater.
And I'm his sister Caroline.
And this week we're starting with minute 37, which opens with Peter reading the newspaper on top of a gargoyle and ends a minute later with Peter working out.
Big quotations around this, working out. For those of you keeping track of what I titled these minutes, I really hope people enjoyed this because I enjoy doing it.
I enjoy it.
Oh, good. Okay, then it's for you. If you remember my minute 2 title, which was Peter Parker Intro, this one's a bit of a throwback with a bit of a twist. It is titled Peter B. Parker Intro.
Yeah, and...
I'm a genius.
Oh, yes.
Totally not rehashing a title. What are you talking about? This is completely just a twist on it.
It's a callback.
It's a callback. Thank you.
Yeah, I like... So, do you know what the B stands for in his name?
Is it Billy?
Ha ha. No, it's never stated in the movie, but in the, actual comics, his middle name is Benjamin. Presumably after his uncle.
Uncle Ben, yeah.
Yeah. But what notes do you have to start this minute?
Well, I wrote the first thing down is because we talked about it a little bit in the cemetery minute, how Peter is Christian in Miles' universe, but Peter B. Parker appears to be Jewish because we see when he gets married, he is breaking the glass that is traditional in Jewish ceremonies.
Yeah, and I did notice that as well, and in the I think director's commentary or something, they were talking about how that was missed by it goes by pretty quickly. It's pretty frequently missed or not picked up on exactly. And then one of the other directors was just yeah, maybe because he was created by the son of two Jewish immigrants. Makes sense if he was Jewish, and I think I kind of touched on that yesterday as well. Is
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it's not always hinted if it's not contradicted. Usually they're kind of implied Jewish or Jewish to some sense.
This feels one of the more outright. Here's a Jewish thing.
Yeah.
This one feels very. He's Jewish.
Yeah.
And it's...
I think I can remember in some of the comics, I think it was they'll just in Aunt May's house or something, they would show just a menorah in the background at certain times.
I thought you were going to reference how sometimes they might, I don't know if they actually do this, but it'd just make me really happy if just randomly he just dropped some weird stereotypical Jewish word.
Yeah. He just slips into some Yiddish.
Yeah, just
And the one thing I wanted to bring up as well before the wedding was the upside down kiss that leads into the wedding, which is taken from Sam Raimi's 2002 Spider-Man, and was made pretty popular with that. I think the Peter Parker from Miles' universe in his intro even parodies it by reversing it, where MJ's upside down, and so it's nice to bring it over here. I guess that's pretty typical of Spider people is, when you have the ability to do that, you're gonna do that.
I mean, hey, when you're a spider person, you tend to be upside down a lot.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're swinging and all of a sudden you just stop and you're oh crap, and then you're hanging upside down. Next thing you're what do I do? This happens. It's part of the life.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just get stuck on the scene. Even Miles got caught hanging upside down a few times already. There are some very funny lines in this montage, and the voiceover for this montage, and just some great visual gags. They really just kind of.
It's a good upbeat moment after the couple of heavy minutes we've had.
Yeah, they really go heavy with the slapstick in here. One of my favorite lines that are down, there's a few, but this one really got me to laugh for some reason. It was, saved at the city some more, maybe too much.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
And then I love how when he says that, he runs into or he gets hit by the bus that says "Have a great day,"
Yes.
and the driver of that bus is
Yeah.
Tombstone.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
That makes it even better. Oh, here's another great line that will transition to the next thing I want to talk about. Peter B. Parker's talking about he made some dodgy money choices,
Yeah.
and then he gives some great life advice, which is, do not invest in a spider-themed restaurant.
Yeah, and the right before that, when he's making his dodgy money investments,
Yeah.
in the background, the like financial show that is being played is a parody of Mad Money, or at least it looks to me like a parody of Mad Money, which is an MSNBC like financial show with that kind of looks like it's in a similar vein to that.
Yeah.
And I was just laughing at that as he's sitting there with his old man glasses on his nose, his reading glasses on his nose.
See a bit of that gut starting to form.
Yeah.
I need to read this because right when he says do not invest in a spider themed restaurant, we're seeing a newspaper, and it is a review for TGI Spideys.
Yeah.
And I must read the title and at least the first paragraph of this review because it's great. So the caption is review: TGI Spideys is disgusting. This is how the article opens. Spider-Man is New York's hero, its savior, the one we can always count on. Or at least he was. Until today. The doors opened to the flagship TGI Spideys in Times Square, and after my dinner there, I have to question if Spider-Man made this menu or if the supervillain did. It goes on. There's more. Like you can read like the appetizing stuff, but Peter's thumb is in the way, so you don't get like a clear reading, which makes me sad because I really want to continue reading this review because he gets detailed.
I also like how that is like that review is real words and everything and makes sense.
Good.
But then on the opposite page, there's something about online something adventures probably or another. But then that whole article is just lorem ipsum, and it's just like they only bothered filling out one half of the page with real text
because they knew people would stop and read it.
Yeah, and then like some of the other visual gags going through. I liked the like saving the day, blah blah blah. 15 years later, like
broke his back.
Yeah, huge time
hit
skip.
By a drone.
Yeah, that was a great.
I do talk about this. I find it so funny how they kind of gloss over some of the heavier stuff. So it's like broke his back, hit by a drone, funny, and it's like buried on May, glossed over.
Yeah,
got a divorce, glossed over. It's like took it like a champ, and then it just cuts to him crying in the shower.
Yeah.
It's just this, I don't know if you noticed this, but it's just a slice of pizza in the corner of the tub.
Yeah, he likes his pizza. Don't like, shame him.
You want to eat soggy pizza?
I mean,
his life is in shambles.
Yeah, when you're depressed, you'll eat pizza, shower pizza.
Exactly. His life's in shambles. He's returning to shower pizza.
Yeah, but to touch on the stuff that was glossed over, the Aunt May death and then the divorce, those do kind of touch on two real events, quote unquote real events, two events that happened in the comics. In Aunt May originally dies during the Clone Saga storyline, which happened during the mid-90s and was a pretty big storyline. Originally it was supposed to be pretty short, and then it sold really well, so they kept extending it along, which
even more clones.
Yeah, which caused because of that it wasn't as tight as it could have been had they stopped it when they originally wanted it to. But she dies in Amazing Spider-Man 400, and and then the Peter and MJ like kind of get, well, they get unmarried in the One More Day storyline or story in 2007.
Unmarried?
Yeah,
It's
so what
different from a
happens?
divorce?
Yeah, what happens is at this point in time, and this is happening in the Ultimates timeline, but Peter and MJ have been married for a while, and then Peter reveals his identity to the world as part of the superhero registration. That kind of puts a target on MJ then, so she is just living in the Avengers Tower, and then she just like isn't really living all too well, and then Aunt May gets shot because she's alive in this timeline, and then I think it's pronounced Mestizo, something like that. He like makes or proposes a deal that he'll or save Aunt May and erase the world's knowledge of Peter Parker's identity, except they also have to erase like their marriage never happened. And so they do that in that storyline, and a lot of people don't like that. I never read it. That's just through the grapevine from what I know. But it's not really a divorce because it's just wiped from existence.
Okay, good point. I see what you mean by unmarried now.
Yeah.
That does put a different catalyst on it. What the connection I thought, and I know it's done before, but the Aunt May death is, spoiler alert for anyone who has not played the PS4 Spider-Man. In the end of that, they kill off Aunt May, which broke my heart. I was not prepared for that.
Yeah.
I was in emotional shambles at the end of that game. But I thought it was a really cool choice to do that with it, because they used it in the game as a good dilemma, but for Peter, of like, do I use this antidote to save everyone, or do I use this antidote to save really the only family I have left? And it was played off. I thought it was played off really well in the game. And no, he's not married to MJ in the game, but they are broken up in the game. That's like brought up like when you first see MJ.
Yeah, no, the way you phrased that, he's not married, and I was expecting like they've been together for a really long time, but no, they're broken up. Like, yeah, no, well, obviously they would. I guess you could be separated,
married, but they're not dating. So it's like they were dating for a while and then they broke up.
Yeah.
But they weren't like this. So it was kind of like the divorce, but just not married.
Yeah. I do like his in the like back to him sitting in the shower.
Yes.
And then the cut to him just like laying on the bed. The way it's cut, it's great because like where his head is in the like center frame, then cuts to where his butt is, just like, as he's sort of laying there on his bed.
I think my favorite part about that moment, which might now be my favorite part of that moment, but before that, it was when he was voicing over. It's like, because when you get knocked down, I always get back up again, and he's just laying in bed, and I'm like, dude, this is depressing.
Yeah.
This is really sad to see you like this.
Yeah, I liked his like upbeat telling of his life when he's clearly very depressed, and I wish like a lot of stories had more of this like unreliable narrator where they say something and then it's clearly not true, because like I feel like a lot of people, especially these days, complain when it's like, oh, they said X, obviously that's true, but like people don't always tell the truth, and so it's a lot of times like, oh, someone says something, then obviously it's true, and it has to be that way. Like, oh, that can't have happened, they said blah blah blah, and you're like, what? No,
that's not how that works. the unreliable narrator trope is I do really enjoy it, and books, it's a little hard to point out because it's like, do you just trust them right away, or like what evidence do you have to not trust them? In TV and movies, I feel it's kind of fallen out a little bit because I feel the best way to do it is when you have like a voiceover narration of the main character, which I don't feel that many shows have it anymore.
No.
And the ones that do tend not to do the unreliable narrator.
Yeah.
Like, they're taken more seriously, and
Unless it's done for like comedic effect like this.
Yeah, like this. Like, you don't see it in like a serious setting anymore, which is a shame because it really is. It's a cool tool within for a character. Like, it's fun to see like, oh, you can tell they're in denial about it when they're clearly going through this stuff or something like. But like it is in this, it's like he's kind of like his ego is just like, nah, I'm doing great.
Yeah.
Can we also they just ramp up the comedy by having just the overly sappy music playing in the background too? Like, we've talked about music so much in this podcast, we really should caption it. Spider-Verse Minute, let's talk about music. But this part in particular might be one of the best uses of it for comedy purposes. It's great.
Yeah, it's a great juxtaposition against what he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
How like he's saying something more upbeat, but then it's just this really sad like just music playing in the background.
Yeah. I also love, moving on a bit, the seahorse moment.
Yeah.
That made me laugh so hard the first time I saw it.
Yeah, and some great like behind the scenes bit with that is that's from an actual video. The whole reason that bit's in, the reason they used that particular video is one of the animators was looking for like a reference shot and picked this one because it happened to have two seahorses looking at each other. And so when they mocked it up and like just used it as the reference, when they should, it's like, oh yeah, that's really cool. And so they got in contact with the person who owned like the video and got permission to use it, and then just like put their filter over it. But yeah, I kind of like when small stuff like that happens, where it's like, oh yeah, like little Easter eggs, like why is this sort of real world thing in here?
It adds for a fun comedy moment, like when SpongeBob does it when they have just random live action moments.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I like it better when it's not just like stock footage as well. When it's something really particular, like, and just sometimes really small things.
It's really cool that they got, like, I love when they get actual permission to do real stuff instead of just stock footage.
Yeah.
And I love that they chose seahorses too, because I love the way this transitions into. Well, first off, there's the line that's, can you imagine just working things out?
Yeah.
That transition. And it does this great tonal transition. Like, the cheesy music has stopped. You can tell it's very serious. And shout out to the voice actor for being able to, like, go from this very hammy moment to a very serious moment of just him saying she wanted kids. And he wasn't sure. Like, he was scared of it.
Yeah. And that, it makes sense for him to not want kids, not want a family, because his whole family keeps dying.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing he got married.
Yeah. I could see like, oh, hey, Aunt May's doing fine. I'm doing good with this. It's been a while. And then once Aunt May dies, like, obviously, maybe not obviously, but that seems to be like what really causes the issues maybe in this 30-second clip. Not even in the 5 seconds we get of his storytelling.
This is a deep analysis.
Yeah. But it made me sad because that means that they don't get a Mayday or Ben J. Parker, and I like those characters.
I mean, they might. Who knows?
Well, yeah. At the end of the story, there's that possibility.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's definitely it's a beautifully sad moment in my opinion. Like, I think it's shot so well. I love the way they do it. I love the way they treat it, and it's a nice like real moment in all of the goofiness.
Yeah, and then it kind of, once he ends that, him calling her and then hanging up, it jumps back to the goofiness with him being like, well, yeah, doing a bunch of push-ups and ab crunches, and it just
getting in shape. It's like he's taking his suit off, there's the gut, grabbing the pizza, and I'm like, first off, a mood. Second, dude, why are you like this?
We know why he's like this. He's severely depressed.
Good point. The soggy pizza, the shower pizza, we've discussed it. I like how he just took the suit off and, like, he still has the web slingers on his wrist.
Yeah.
I don't know, that really brought amusement to me. Do you have anything else for this minute?
Yeah, one question I had about watching this is, like, what kind of time frame are we talking about here? Like, is between, like, he's like, oh yeah, I've been, did that for 15 years, and then that's when Aunt May dies, and then him and MJ get divorced, and then the portal happens. But, like, between, like, when Aunt May dies and the divorce, like, is that, like, okay, Aunt May dies, and then, like, a couple months later they divorce, and then, like, a couple months later this happens? Or is it like, oh, and then, like, 2 or 3 years later, and then, like, yeah, what kind of timeline are we talking about? Is it days?
I don't know.
I
don't think it's days.
Like, or, like, even between, like, when the divorce is finalized or when the divorce happens and this happens, like, is that, I guess that'd be longer than days. It'd be a little weird.
I got more of the impression that it was maybe a few months in between the events.
Yeah.
Not entirely sure, but that's the impression I got.
Yeah, I can see that. Hopefully not years. Hopefully it's just months. 4 months would make it a little less creepy.
Well, and it's so like we see later in the movie that it's very fresh in his.
I mean, it could just be that he's been wallowing in it for years. Like, it doesn't have to.
I know,
necessarily be fresh,
that's just what makes me think it's probably more months than years.
Yeah.
I don't think I think he's a little better than that.
Yeah.
Could be giving him the benefit of the doubt, but is that Thursday? That's all you had?
Yeah, that's all I had for this minute.
That's all I had. Thank you all for listening. Until next time, see you then.
Bye.